So Mike, what does the digital transformation look like for contemporary security programs for organizations in the private sector?
Yeah, I think basically at the heart of it is you're taking your existing strategies, your existing technologies, and really looking at, is that going to be enough to take you into the future? As you know, with robotics and sensors and AI and machine learning, as they come to the fore in businesses in general, enterprises, as a security entity, how are you going to map to that? Because it was what I was saying earlier when I was talking about the cloud, right? The impetus for the cloud for most companies, I don't think was necessarily security. Security is obviously a huge factor, but for many companies back in the day, it was when they realized, I don't have to have on-prem systems. I don't have to have this massive IT structure to take care of that. I can get someone else to take care of that in a more secure environment, and it'd be cheaper. And I can pull it, the information as needed, blah, blah, blah. So it's the same kind of thing here. Companies are embracing digital transformation, not necessarily from a security perspective, but because it's going to make their business processes faster and easier. So as corporate security entities or security entities, we need to be thinking about how do we map to that strategy. Now, we should be doing it anyway on our own, because hopefully you got the foresight to know that at some point what got you here won't get you there. So even though with our GSOCs at Microsoft, as good as they are, you're still talking about now 10-year-old technology that works. So how's that going to last another 10 years? Then you end up being what we used to be with the old Life Safety Control Center. So I just think people have to look at your strategy, look at where the business is going, because at the end of the day, if you don't want to be the guns, guards, and gates, you have to be the business enabler. And you map to that, that should give you a bit of a roadmap on your digital transformation strategy.
And what is the biggest challenge in getting an organization to take this approach? Is it funding? Is it changing the mindset? What is it?
Yeah, funding certainly is a challenge, but I think part of it is if you've established yourself in an enterprise as someone, as again, that business leader, that trusted advisor, and not looked at as the break glass in case of emergency only kind of person, then it's a little easier to get the funding. But it's the mindset, you touched on it. It's truly the mindset. You have a whole generation of us that came up post 9/11 and built up security infrastructures using technology, but also looking at bollards and barriers and card access and all these things that are traditional ways to protect an environment. And then digital transformation says, well, we can use a frictionless environment. So we can use identity at the edge to capture who belongs in your ecosystem and who doesn't, and then if people who don't. And you can do it from a distance, say like from a building to parking lot up to the steps. You can capture it before they even get to the outer perimeter of your ecosystem, and then you could figure out ways to then kind of manage that, right? Or like this whole idea of the single view platform, right? How does that work? Can you actually splice all those feeds together and machine learning to be able to spit out real-time stuff? The idea of not having physical barriers in some senses is a real game changer, and it does take a mindset. And there are folks in my previous group that still don't buy off on it, and I think it'll work, but you have to prove it to them.
And how can you touched on the transformation that you underwent from going from GSOC to now a VSOC, Virtual Security Operations Center. How can a VSOC be used to transform a security department, from a traditional call center to a cost saver or even revenue generator?
Yeah, I think, if you use the model or the explanation I used when I was asked that question earlier, we were able to take the GSOC and monetize it, but just by working with our sales teams. I think it's the same kind of way. If you virtualize any part of your environment, that makes those processes smoother. That same process, that's a security process, right? But that can be translated into a finance process or some other business process. So if you can partner with the sales organization, the folks that make money for the company, and say, look, we've employed these technologies that are mapping to the overall strategy of the company when it comes to AI, machine learning, all that good stuff. And come take a look and we'll show you, and happy to bring your customers in. And then maybe in some cases, their companies may want to adopt what we've done, because it's not just about the technology. What we found about GSOC back in the day was we had the great technology for interoperability and all that stuff. But it was actually the processes behind it that allowed us to become as efficient as we were in managing situations. It'll be the same with VSOC. You'll have those wonderful technologies that will allow us to be more predictive, react faster, and cut a lot of redundancy out and maybe some manpower and costs. But at the same time, there is a process behind that virtualized environment. There's a process behind what kind of information you need in those data lakes that we share, say with CyberSide, or whatever you pop in there. That's going to be the guts of the data that allows you to react or be predictive. So there's a huge iterative process there of learning. But once you get there and those processes are solid, married with that technology, there's a way to monetize that.